In this week's Torah portion, Parshat Vayigash, we see the pinnacle of the Joseph narrative being sold down to slavery in Egypt. And now at our point in the narrative, which is chapter 45, verse 23 in Genesis, Joseph has revealed himself to his brothers, and that's really it's him, Joseph, who they threw into a pit and sold so many years ago. And now he wants to be reunited with his father, Jacob, and he tells the brothers, go and fetch Abba from Canaan and bring him back down here. And before they go, he gives them provisions for the trip. And then it says in verse 23, Ula aviv shalach kazot. And to his father he sent like this, Asara chamarim, 10 donkeys, nos'im mituv Mitzrayim, laden with the best of Mitzrayim, the best of Egypt. And it goes on to say, Ve'eser atanot nosot bar v'lechem amazon la'aviv ladarech, and also 10 she-donkeys laden with grain, bread, and food for his father for the journey. So the rabbis question, what does it mean that the 10 he-donkeys were laden with tuv Mitzrayim, the best of Egypt? If we know that the 10 she-donkeys have grain and bread and food, then what else is there? What is there to send other than bread, grain, and food? Says Rashi, mituv Mitzrayim. Matzinu b'Talmud sheshalach lo yayin yashan shedat zakenim enocha hemenu. We have found in the Talmud, and this is a quote from Tractate Megillah 16b, that what is the best of Egypt? Old wine, vintage wine. And it goes on to say that it's known, the Gemara says, that vintage wine helps to soothe the mind of those folks who are elderly. So that's one interesting answer, that Tuv Mitzrayim means fine wine. And why would he send this? It's a nice gift. Everyone likes receiving fine wine, but more specifically, that it helps to calm the minds of the elderly. And we know that Yaakov is going to be expected to make a trip down to meet Joseph in Mitzrayim. So it'd be nice to soothe the mind of Jacob for this trip. Now Rashi goes on to cite a second Midrash from Breshit Rabbah. Midrash Agadah. There's an Agadic Midrash that says that Tuv Mitzrayim does not mean wine, but rather grisin shel ful, that it was full beans, split beans, a certain type of Egyptian bean. That's what the Midrash says. Now why? What's the significance of the idea that Joseph would have sent back to Egypt beans? That's what he wants his father most especially to have from Egypt, beans. So says the Gur Aryeh, the Maharal, what's the special significance of these beans? Shehem tovim letzarat nefesh. They were known to be particularly effective to help distressed souls, tortured souls, pained souls, depressed souls. Shahaya leYaakov kol yemei chayav, which Jacob had his whole life. Now it's a very short comment from the Maharal, but I find it to be a very profound one. Joseph has just outed himself to his brothers. And up until now, he's known his father was alive. He was able to ask the brothers that, but he wasn't able to communicate with him, wasn't able to send him anything, because he would have had to have broken his disguise, out of this charade that he's keeping up with his brothers, that he's the number 2 in command of Egypt and not really Joseph, or not also Joseph. But now he gets to send something to his dad. And what does he want to send him? These beans. Because what does he know about his father? that his father has been in terrible distress for many years, having assumed that he, Joseph, is either dead or somewhere else, pained. And the first thing he wants to do is help his father. The first answer about the vintage wine is slightly different. That seems to be, maybe you could say that's for, it says that, because the Midrash there, the Talmud says that's about all elders. You know, that's important for elders to calm their minds. I understand that to be specific to the fact that for Jacob's trip down to Egypt. But the beans are very much geared towards the particularity, the specific experience of Jacob, the fact that he's led a pained and tortured existence for so many years since the supposed death of his son. And the first thing Joseph wants to do is, in whatever way he can, calm that. Now, what's really going to calm it, of course? Not these beans, but the knowledge that his son is alive and that he's going to get to see him, which he then gets to do just 5 verses later in one of the most beautiful and poignant verses in all of Tanakh. So, a beautiful, small but very sweet moments in this week's Parsha. Great learning with you as always. More next week.